Hi cuties. So it is obviously October, the spooky month, and horror games are in a really great position right now. We just got the Silent Hill 2 remake, which was a beautifully crafted reimagining of an all-time classic, and there's a bunch more Silent Hill on the way according to Konami's lying ass. This has me scratching my cranium thinking, wowza, it truly is great to have a horror gaming giant back in the mix next to Resident Evil and such, but there's still plenty more I would love to see come back, whether it be through a remaster/remake or straight up a new entry. And as y'all all know, Jack the Ripper is a huge horror gaming enthusiast, so I felt like it was only right to deliver y'all the best list possible when it comes to horror games that need to make a big resurgence. Now the prerequisites for this list aren't too strict, but I won't be mentioning stuff like Dead Space since it just got a remake, or games that have been released in like the last 5-ish years, you know? Alright, it's time to stop fucking yapping and get started. Now, I feel like this list would not be complete if I didn't immediately start it with Dino motherfucking Crisis. Capcom has shown interest in this series somewhat. I mean, they released something dinosaur related in Exoprimal. That game was, yeah. If Dino Crisis was remade in the new RE engine akin to their new Resi remakes, it would accrue so much interest and definitely would perform much better than the originals, I pinky promise. Regina is one of the all-time coolest female protagonists in gaming, and seeing that game as a kid with the actual real 3D environments compared to the pre-rendered backgrounds of RE games was just so damn mind-boggling to me, dude. I'm not one of these folks that say it's just Resident Evil with dinosaurs because they play pretty different. In Dino Crisis, the enemy encounters can be so goddamn nerve-wracking, and you simply gotta run your happy ass away because it's genuinely better to do that than stay and fight and die, bitch. As of like 2 weeks ago, they did actually re-release this game in some form finally on PlayStation Plus Premium. You can't buy it individually for some reason, but if you subscribe, it is playable, which proves Capcom does remember that it exists. Nice! A part of me does wish that we could straight up just get Dino Crisis 4, but I am aware that Capcom would probably just remake the first one and call it a day because that's much easier for them. Dino Crisis 1 and 2 are huge horror gaming staples. Well, at least they were in my childhood, bitch. So I would absolutely relish the opportunity to get them back in my life at 4K 60. Yummy. Next up, I have a bit of an underrated one, I'll say. Cry of Fear. Dare I say, this is the greatest free survival horror video game of all time. I'm not really sure what could rival it besides like PT if that was still out, but beyond that, it is just one of the best experiences you could shit your pants at regardless of price. If you're unaware, this is pretty much just first-person Silent Hill with some great puzzles and Half-Life-ass combat being made in the Source engine, obviously. The team behind this, I'm not gonna attempt to pronounce that, have just disappeared off the interwebs though, adding to the mystery of the game, and that scares me even more for real. If you haven't played Cry of Fear, you desperately need to do so. It's literally free. You have zero excuses, bitch. Cry of Fear is such a slow, dark, methodically paced, depressing-ass video game that so many YouTubers played back in the day because of how horrifying it actually is. It has been over 10 years since it originally released, and while we don't need a remaster because the Source engine has aged so goddamn well in Jack the Ripper's eyes, I'll say I'd love to get a sequel to this game, perhaps with a new protagonist and location this time. Imagine that shit in the Source 3 engine, oh my goodness. Speaking of the Source engine, y'all, Left 4 Dead 3. I mean, do I need to say more, bitch? I guess I will because I have to, but Left 4 Dead 2 still has such a huge player base, and I know it's because us stinky gamers are fiending for more of that Valve random scary goodness. Left 4 Dead is still so much fun to hop back into whenever you want to play quite literally the greatest horde shooter of all time with the homies. To this day, there's nothing really quite like it. I mean, Back 4 Blood attempted to do something like this, but no. I will say, I do not want a Left 4 Dead 2 remaster or remake, we just need the third one so fucking bad, y'all. Sadly though, I do believe this one probably has the lowest percentage of ever happening, simply because Valve is just astronomically rich, and they simply do not have to make any more games ever again. There are small little rumors and leaks about an actual, real Half-Life 3 being made, but take that with the fattest grain of salt you could possibly consume. If that happens though, maybe, just maybe, I would start to believe that there is a possibility that Left 4 Dead could make any sort of comeback. Obscure is a game series that I feel didn't get the best opportunity to become something great. Releasing in this same month 20 years ago alongside GTA San Andreas, Paper Mario, and Tony Hawk's Underground 2 probably wasn't the best decision, but this game needed some more love, man. I'd like to describe it as a mix between Until Dawn / The Quarry and Resident Evil Outbreak, you know? Just dumb, fun, goofy horror video games that are better experienced with a friend. You're not gonna be shitting your britches or wetting yourself with fear, but maybe with some laughter. I mean, it truly is one of the best cooperative horror experiences, rivaling the modern games like Phasmophobia and such. There, I said it. To put it really simply, if you're a fan of cheesy B-horror movies like Terrifier and the like, the two obscure games are here to rub your back for you, and I think they're on Steam, so go play them. Next up is The Suffering, and the Suffering games are first and third person horror adventures that are severely underrated. You play as a death row prisoner named Torque, who doesn't remember killing his wife and children, naturally. The first one takes place on an Alcatraz-like island where an earthquake hits and all hell breaks loose, quite literally. The Suffering's environment and art design are top fucking tier cream of the crop, and all of the enemy designs represent some different form of execution. There's even a morality system here that leads to different endings depending on how you choose to play the game. It plays like a typical action game of the time, which of course means it's fun as fuck. It's pretty awesome that you can play in third or first person as well, which predates games like the newer Resident Evil titles with that feature. The sequel, Ties That Bind, was more of the same, but it had a really cool feature that allowed you to continue from whatever ending you got in the previous game if the save was still on your memory card. Now listen up, cuties, there are some interesting developments that have recently gone down with this series actually, as Warner Brothers decided to delist them from GOG.com for whatever fucking reason. Nice! Could this possibly mean that they're planning on bringing back this series in a big way? Probably fucking not. Before I go into the next series that definitely needs to come back, I'd like to mention a few honorable mentions that I think are a super big long shot, but fuck it. Kuon is one of the rarest PS2 games that money can buy, so best believe my money will probably never be buying it. You got me fucked up. But this was actually developed by From Software, a few years before they cooked up their revolutionary Demon's Souls title. I think FromSoft should take another crack at this, because they were absolutely cooking some here. It's not the greatest game in the world by any means, but the utilization of spell cards and the story being about Japanese kaiden ghost stories is pretty fucking cool. I truly don't believe that this will ever happen. I just love to dream, and I remember when FromSoft made a wide variety of different video games. Fatal Frame was originally going to be on this list until I remembered that they've actually been slowly remastering the later entries, but I am of the opinion they need to just suck it up and drop a brand new fucking game at this point. It's hard to call Fatal Frame a dormant franchise, but it has been 10 years since we've gotten anything original from Koei Tecmo, and we desperately need another one, please. Last but not least, the horror series that Jack the Ripper truly is begging and yearning to make a comeback is Forbidden Siren. 3 of the freakiest games to ever exist. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. The first game is brutal, difficult, and the facial animations at the time were absolutely groundbreaking. I mean, even today they look pretty silly in some instances, I'll admit, but they're so eerie to the point where it freaks me out still just looking at it. Sightjacking was an incredible horror game premise. Being able to see from the enemy's point of view to let yourself know where they are is out of this world stuff. I mean, 7-year-old me playing that game and sightjacking into the enemy's point of view and seeing them stare at me made me cry so hard my mom made me return the game to Blockbuster, bitch. Forbidden Siren 2 was a fantastic sequel that is still locked to PAL regions to this day, and it's a shame because it is superior to the first game in many, many ways. The combat was improved, the enemy design got scarier somehow, and the story was such a mind fudge. Siren Blood Curse was their attempt at reimagining the first game on the PS3, so to speak, but it's honestly my least favorite out of the trilogy. Being developed by the original Team Silent, this felt like where Silent Hill could have gone if they retained the rights to that IP. The team eventually disbanded, and the creator is now about to release Slitterhead in the coming days, so we'll have to see how that pans out. However, Siren is just one of those slept-on series that every horror game enthusiast should try at least once. And that's about it for my list, cuties. I'm sure there are many, many, many more games we'd all like to see come back in some form, but these are all the ones that mean something to me, man. What do you guys think, though? Do you agree with all the games I mentioned, or am I forgetting your childhood favorite, and perhaps should I hit myself in the head because of it? Thank you guys, by the way, for 888 subscriblets. I love you to death. Make sure you scare the shit out of the like button. Perhaps stab that subscribe, and I love you guys. Bye!